Good morning, good afternoon, middle of the day, wherever you are. I am so happy that you're here with us today. My name is V. Lynn Hawkins, and I am your co-host for today's show. I've got the fabulous Cynthia Gardner O'Neill, who's going to help me with grilling the traffic master today, because we are in Module 10 of the Permission Movement Experience, and I am thrilled to be here today to talk about traffic. You know, we all have been interested in getting more traffic to our website. One of the things that the Permission Movement has done and will be doing, and you will be seeing more of, is the strategy that we've put in place to send out and solicit feedback on our permission slips campaign. And so keep an eye out for that. But right now, I'd love to take a moment to tell you what the Permission Movement is, what the Permission Movement experience is, and how you can participate. Because today is just one of the fabulous days that we have had and will have fabulous presenters to help bring to you on the information from their area of expertise on the subject of story. You know, we've all got a story, and in that story, messages, not just to us, but energetic messages that can have the opportunity to impact our business. So if you want to do the best for your business, your family, the biggest thing to do is to really learn how to understand your story. And my story is right now the telephone's ringing in the background, but I'm not going to let that move me because it's so important that you know there's a bigger reason for us being here today. One of which is the Permission Movement experience was designed to bring you, the co-authors of the book Permission to be Powerful, 20 unique insights into the Shiro's journey. And each of the co-authors has brought to you a tool, a technique that they used in their journey that helped propel them to the next level. And our goal is to not only share that with you, but share with you the fact that it is because we've recognized the place that our story was in, decided, you know, drew the line in the sand and decided that the story of our future was not going to be a reflection of our past, yet it was going to help us. Our past was going to help us to take our stories to the next level in building bigger businesses and making a bigger impact in the world. So we've brought together 9 celebrity guests, of which we have one here today, and we've brought all of the co-authors together, and you'll see us over the course of 9 weeks. We started on January 5th. We will be wrapping things up the week of March 2nd, and everything is around story. So one of the things that we are doing is, in our goals, our intention is to impact the stories of girls and women who are really looking at their futures in a very dismal way. We're targeting girls, and I say targeting, we're really reaching out to these organizations that support girls and women, girls who are aging out of the foster care system and looking at their future like, oh my God, what's next? Girls who are transitioning out of juvenile detention and saying, what else can I do with my life if I go back to where I came from? What's going to happen to me? And a lot of girls actually do things to go back to prison because there is a degree of safety in that for them. We're actually focused on women who are transitioning out of the prison system, who are looking at their future the very same way. If I go back to where I came from, the family, the influences, what's going to happen to me there? It's going to be such a struggle. I mean, all of these things, not to mention the fact that some may qualify for halfway homes or homes that are transitional homes for them, and yet they still are missing or are gathering one thing, which this book we've designed to help them to get, and that's the additional life skills to add to their toolbox, their life skills toolbox, so that as they're looking at their future, as they're visioning their future, they can envision a brighter future because they have a lot more tools that they can work with in having read these inspirational yet informational stories that the co-authors have written. So when you purchase one of the digital packages, for every 2 purchases of a digital package, guess what? We're giving away a digital package to a nonprofit organization to support their community of girls and women. And we'd love for you to tell us who your nonprofit is that actually focuses on this area of women and girls so that we can help them to get this information in their hands. And that aside, I felt it important to really lay the groundwork for why it is that we're doing this, and that the mission is really a social enterprise venture. It's something that has played on the hearts of each one of our co-authors, and it's very important to me that this book project be bigger than just a book, just selling books, because a lot of people out there pay to become bestsellers. We want our book to go bestseller because of what it can do with this audience of girls and women. But we need women entrepreneurs. We need entrepreneurs. We need those of you who are leaders in the community who can spread the word about what it is that we're doing and help us to get this vision underway. So now I want to turn our attention to our fabulous guest today. There are a lot of people out there who purport to know about traffic and teach traffic strategies, but I believe that the guest that we have today is one of the best, probably top of the line. He knows who to tap into for what pieces of web information he needs that he then empowers others with. And that's why we've brought him here today. We've got international marketing consultant, author, and coach with 16 years experience in online marketing, web development, project management, coaching, SEO, content marketing, and membership development. We've got the traffic master, Jack Humphrey. He's the author of Power Linking, The Authority Black Book, and best-selling Bend the Web. And he has developed traffic strategies that he's going to share with us today. He is Associate Dean at Directions University, where both Cynthia and I are also faculty. But it was really important to me because this is also a gentleman who is very socially conscious. His background is in tracking. And I mean tracking in nature, the bears and the lions and the tigers. Well, maybe not the lions and the tigers because they're in the jungle, but the bears and all kinds of things. And I'm sure that he's going to share some of this with us today. But he's responsible for bringing billions of targeted visitors to not only his own businesses and readers, but members and clients that he has served. And he's going to tell us about these strategies that he's advising his clients to use that he's now sharing with us. If you ever wanted to be promoted through traffic solutions, this is it. So let me just stop because it's important for me that, Jack, you get sufficient time to really get this information out because we've got a great list of things that I know you're going to talk about today. Hi, Jack.
Hi. Thank you. Who wrote that introduction? I need to give them money.
Yes, right here. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Well, let's just start off. I told everybody a bit about you, but tell us a little bit more about your story and your journey from, tracking to the things that you loved in getting introduced into your career that have brought you to the place of Associate Dean and all the things that you're doing now.
Okay, well, it started in a small village in a a wrong story. I was raised by wolves. No, that's a different story too. But I feel like I was. No offense, mom. But yeah, I'm a weird one. I'm odd. I was not the data crunching geek nerd back in 1998 when I discovered, along with the rest of the world, this little site called Google, who had just also started in 1998. And I was looking around. I was in the nonprofit world. I was actually taking Sierra clubbers and everybody else out to the wilds of southwestern New Mexico, southeastern Arizona, and northern Sonora and Chihuahua, Mexico, to do wilderness survival stuff, teaching people how to be out there, and then teaching them how to track wildlife. And that was for an organization that was really interested in getting rid of the illegal roads that are always being created in wilderness and Forest Service areas, assisting the Forest Service in tracking down these illegal roads, you know, two tracks and people taking their ATVs and stuff. So we were bringing attention to that, and we had people actually come out in giant crews in places that are the furthest away from a paved road in outside of Alaska in this part of North America. Very, very wild, remote stuff. And you'd think people who are environmentally focused would know a little bit more about how to get along out there. They were like really literally babes in the woods. And so what took people, a lot of them were called peak baggers. So that's somebody who sees a mountain and they've just got to get it in their little book, write it down that they climbed Mount Capitan, whatever, and on the date and everything else. And so they would, you know, some of those guys would actually do like 30 miles of hiking a day, 30 in a day. And they were hardcore. So a lot of people that came to me, you know, had that attitude. And in my tracking studies, I would take the entire day to go 1 or 2 miles. And that's because we'd always be studying sign. We'd always be aware of our surroundings. We'd always be looking for tracks. We'd always be looking for little pieces of black bear hair, fur in the bark of the trees when they'd scratch their backs. And we would always be off the trail where it was harder to hike, and we'd be on you know, wildlife trails. So I mean, literally no tracking. So that's what I know when I come to the web. I don't have any kind of real serious background. I did some geographic information systems computing and stuff in the 90s, early 90s. But after that, I was an executive director for several nonprofits and then came straight to the web. Got tired of living on a nonprofit salary. And I was looking around at what to do. And I started looking at successful websites like everybody does, wondering what they were doing to get the traffic they got. And the only thing I knew how to do was backtrack. You know, when we find a successful kill in the wild, like a deer carcass or something that's kind of shoved up under a tree for later, that's a mountain lion's refrigerator, is a tree or a log, and to hide their food. And that's where we would be clued in on the fact that there's a mountain lion in the area. So we would look at all the sign around it. We'd go out and out and out and out from the deer kill, and we'd backtrack that successful. We'd start at the end and backtrack the success. So I did that on the web, and I started figuring out that this new search engine was using an algorithm. And not only that, but I figured out what the algorithm was based entirely on, which was links. So if I had 1,001 links and you had 1,000 links, I would be #1 in the search and you'd be #2. And it was quite simply that, black and white. It was that simple back then. But at the same time, I do get to say I'm one of the few people in the beginning who cracked the first Google algorithm. They got a lot harder, and it was a lot more scientific and something I couldn't possibly do later on. But in the beginning, it was so simple. There was a guy in Russia who published his findings, and there was a guy in Canada that I talked to who never published. And then I published really hard and called it Power Linking Your Way to a Million Hits. And that was in 2002. So after that, several membership sites, several companies, all basically around me being the traffic guy and people wanting to, you know, talk to me about how to drive traffic. And in every stage since 2002, when social media and blogging came first in social media, then marketers started to run their sites on blogs almost exclusively. Today, they almost completely exclusively do. And lots of things have changed, but human nature hasn't. That's nice. And and it's still easy to track success. Some people rely on one or two sources of traffic these days. They might rely just on Facebook or just on Google Plus or some other social media, or they might rely on media buys or being a professional interviewee and coming to shows like this all the time, just constantly. You'll see those people always on somebody's show, a guest posting, guest blogging, having a gig with maybe the Huffington Post of your niche and having a monthly column there. So people get traffic. I think the biggest thing to start off with is that people get traffic from a lot of sources, but it's very important if you're trying to figure out what yours is going to be to not get blown away by the plethora of choices that we have. Because when you do, you start doing a lot of little things and nothing really gets enough attention from you to get enough traction to bring the traffic that you need. And today, more than ever, and I guess tomorrow it's going to be twice as much, there are so many opportunities that just weren't there back in the early 2000s, mid and late 2010. It's just confusing now for a lot of people. So they effectively don't get any traffic from any major source because they are trying to do it all because they think they have to do it all. So I guess we could start there if that's where you want to start.
You know what? I was just going to say that is a great point. You know, one of the things that I've learned is that the confused mind or the overwhelmed mind does nothing. So people tend to choose one spot to focus on regardless of whether or not they're getting the results that they're looking for. So, you know, what is it that people can do to really make the work that they're doing effective?
Well, knowing your audience and knowing your solution that you're bringing to the world. Those two things will help you decide what kind of traffic sources you're going to go after, what kind of things you're going to focus on. So Gina was here last, right? Is that true?
She was here, was it last week? No, week before last, yeah.
Okay, so she talked about the Vortex model of doing business, I would assume?
She did? She
okay.
did.
So everything is so you guys could reference that one, and every time she said something about the Vortex being you know, like a business model, now today take that same, you know, the graphics that she shared about the Vortex and all that, and take that and just superimpose traffic over the whole thing. So she talked about pillars and the rings of the Vortex, and your pillars and are your topics. So your main things that you always talk about out on your outer rings of the Vortex in social media, places like this when you get interviewed by B. Lynn Hawkins, and you know all the different things that you do. You'll have 3 to 7 pillars, no less than 3, no more than 7 topics that you generally talk about. And when you go out on social media, it's always something around one of those topics. They all lead to the center of your Vortex, which is the main thing that you're here to do for business and for the world, for your contribution, and that is so that you can stay on track. And then it becomes a little bit more apparent where you need to go, what kinds of places you need to be getting traffic from, and how to use those places to get that traffic. So the other part of that is knowing your audience very, very, very well. And I'm sure you guys have talked about, you know, things like creating an avatar and you know, your ideal person, and even being able to picture that ideal customer that you're going after, the person who you created your solution for, whether it's a physical product or a book or coaching or a service, whatever it is that you're doing, you have somebody in mind, some particular type of person, and or two if it's a male version and a female version, but generally it's just a very, very specific thing. Now you can start going, well, where are they surfing? Where can I go and get in front of the biggest chunk of that person? You know, if you could go into Wembley Stadium and it was just totally full of your ideal audience for your products, then you would be working your butt off to try to figure out how am I going to get on stage at Wembley, which if you're a musician, that's a lifelong dream that most can't achieve just because it's so exclusive. So but you know, you don't have to show up on Wembley's stage as the opening act. You can show up as the one of the warm-up acts, you know, and that would still be a really big deal. and you'd find yourself in front of 60 to 80,000 people who are your ideal market. Now you have a chance to say whatever you need to say to capture their attention. We use stories constantly now. We used to call it just copywriting, and now it's expanded to stories because of the qualitative nature has picked up on the internet so much that people won't even tolerate if they feel like they're being marketed to in any way, shape, or form through social, especially. They will just tune out. And so imagine all 80,000 people turning their backs on you in Wembley Stadium. Not a good feeling. So you have to capture people's imagination, and you have to tell stories that all lead back into the center of your vortex where you do your business. And so it gets a lot easier, but it's just as hard now as it was back in 1999 when all we had was like one forum and a and like nothing. Just we didn't have much. And now people don't complain about having too much. People generally don't. We just drown in it, you know, without saying that it's a problem. We never see too much as a problem. But it actually is. It presents the same problems that we had when we only had a few tools to market back in the day. So, because if you get shut down, you're shut down. And back then, we were throttled by not having enough resources to go out and do stuff. Because the web was still evolving. The big bang had just happened on the web, and now here it's the same effect. It's like being in one of those money shower machines, you know, on a contest, and you're trying to grab them all, and everybody always tries to specifically grab stuff. And of course the trick to that, and the reason nobody uses those machines anymore, is that you open your shirt up so it all comes up and this becomes a bag and you get all the money. And once people figured out that little trick, and that's the story of so many things, isn't it? I mean, once people figure out the trick, you can open up your shirt and catch all the traffic, if you want to go that far with that metaphor.
Totally visual, yes. Good visual.
You capture imagination.
Yes, it just that.
Yeah, the stories that you guys, you know, even the stories that you've shared with us on just capturing, you know, the imagination of everyone who's here and who's going to watch this. You've just told several different stories, and like the Wimbledon, and like your tracking and everything, and that definitely, and I just posted that in there. It says, using stories for the qualitative nature of relationships, capturing the imagination of your market. That's what you said, Jack. And,
really?
And you're yes. And
you're the wrong guy. I don't know what you're talking about.
So yes. You're walking your talk here. You're walking your talk. Thank you.
And you know, I'm so glad you did that, Cynthia, because one of the things that I recognize that we need to do for each other is capture those quotable moments. And Jack has some profound things that he says, which he has already started putting out there. But Jack, I got a question for you. You know, we're talking about all of the things that we do, you know, the avatar and the stories, and there's really a formula behind telling those stories, what they need to be comprised of, and you've mastered that. I know that David Bullock has done one of our modules where he actually talks about the various components of story, so that not only you can understand your own, but you can understand your story, how to detach from it so that you can use it as something that you can talk about with the right kind of emotions. And, you know, when I think about telling your story, when I think about traffic and using your story to drive traffic, are there some things that we should not do? We must, I mean, you told me that there was some stuff that you must never ever do in social marketing if you want to build a massive following. What is that?
Well, everything that makes you one of those icky marketers. And it's not like any of us want to run out and be that. And it's like, hey, here's a strategy. I'm going to go out and be one of those megaphone marketers. I'm just going to shove this message out everywhere I possibly can. And the people who think it's cool are going to come to my page, and they're going to come to my lead, you know, funnel, or they're going to, you know, people quickly learn that that's not the case. And it's not to say that anybody here is in danger of ever doing that. But we do it in a more subtle way. We One of the things that you have to remember is that you cannot get anybody to do anything on the web if their own self-interest isn't at the center of their choice. And if you're making it impossible for them to make that choice, then you're just going to have bad results. And so that's not saying that you're standing on a soapbox and doing the megaphone thing at all. It's remote from that, but it still has the effect. It's gotten very subtle now, so that you can't find very many people out there that are doing obnoxious marketing to that degree anymore. They all have caught on. Everybody's caught on. But we subtly sabotage ourselves in that, let's say you've got a promotion coming up and it's going to be a really big deal for your company. If you really want it to be a big deal for your company and you're nervous about how many people are actually going to take the steps you want them to take. And in that feeling of anxiousness, we will sabotage ourselves and make bad choices about how we tell, how much of the story we tell, and what part of the story we tell out on social and in our email interactions and everything else. So it would be the difference between, so if I was getting ready to do a promotion right now, I come on here and I tell my gracious hosts that I'm just going to be completely informative ahead of time, and I'm not going to, and then I come on the show and I'm really anxious about this launch and I really want everybody to go to it. It would be premature and rude of me to start talking about that promotion in any direct way. What I want to do is tell a story, which has already begun in the first half hour here, is the storytelling. And so I found an advantageous way to talk about what I do without talking about what I do. and really at this stage, for almost all or all of your viewers, it's get to know me time. And I found a way that I stand out from all the other people who talk about getting traffic, both in the content physically, just, I mean, the actual content of how I get traffic, which is weird and different than most people, but also my stories as weird as you can possibly get, wildlife tracker and all of that stuff. So I'm doing what I'm doing to show you guys that this is what I do, and this is what I think is the best way to do it. I'm not laying subtle hints or unsubtle hints and ruining your show with constant barrage of, and that's what I do, and that's why I'm so great, and that's why you ought to follow me, and all that winking and shooting guns at the screen. So I think people do that. It's a way that they sabotage themselves. They go out on the web and they're so anxious about pulling off that thing that they shoot too early. They go, I don't know, I can't think for some reason of the right phrase, but it's just they don't have the patience that they told themselves in the back of their head they have to have. Tell the story, have a beginning, have a middle, have an end, and the end being land on my landing page and get into my product line and get to the very center of my vortex. That all has to be done elegantly now. People can smell, like they can smell fear, like sharks can smell blood 2 miles away in the ocean. People are very finely attuned to being marketed to. And so you have to really, really hold back. And a lot of people, I think nowadays, it's not that everybody's just deciding to be a megaphone marketer, it's that they're sabotaging themselves in a way that they don't even have any clue that they're doing it. And that's really the demise. I think a lot of people would talk about tactics, they would talk about copy, they would talk about NLP, they would talk about all these different particular strategies and tactics as to why you did or didn't succeed in getting enough attention for something. I think that not enough attention and focus has been paid to emotionally what you're doing wrong, energetically what you're doing wrong. When something doesn't get as much attention as you want, sure, you could have screwed up a really obvious tactic that, later when you look back, it's like I should have done that better on Facebook with the ads and clicking the, cost per thousand instead of cost per click. Or you might have made a tactical mistake, but a lot of people don't understand that a lot of it is an emotional approach, the approach that you gave to convey the emotions that you wanted to get people to come and do something very simple, then something a little bit more complicated and a little bit more expensive, to working with you. That is elegant. It's art. It really is art. And it's the first time in my life I've heard marketers, talk about marketing or copywriting and things like that as an art, but it wasn't until I got this last point that I'm making that I really actually thought marketing in that regard was an art, and it really is. But it's communications, that's what it is. It's less marketing, and I think a lot of people never wanted to be marketers, and they feel like they're forced into a world. They got this really good thing or this product or service that they want to help people with and provide, and they never thought of themselves. They just realized one day, oh God, I'm going to have to market this now. I guess I'm a marketer, so let me put the marketer hat on and I'll do the best I can. And their previous experience with marketing is the guy on the TV yelling, buy my car, come on down to Billy Bob's. That's the only experience they have with it. So what are they going to do? What's their natural thing? They're going to get on social media and go, come on, buy my car. And it already doesn't feel good to them. They don't like it any more than you like to see it, but they don't know any better. And so I'm here, and my message is to spread as far and wide as I can that you don't have to be that guy or that girl. You don't have to do that kind of thing to sell. In fact, you can relax. You're trying too hard. You don't need to know half the stuff you think you now need to know in order to just be a good storyteller. Tell a story. Think about what your story is, and think about the story of your product or service and what it means to do that. Think about how Apple runs a commercial. And their commercial isn't, look how great our iPhone is, because that's easily refutable by us Android users. It's not that great. I'll give you 500 different points of why my phone is better than your phone. They don't even try that. What they do is they tell stories about people using their products and what their lives would be like if they were using this product. Somebody walking through a cafe and they're just telling a story about the feel of it in their hand is implied, and the ease of life, and how they can just pay with their phone and they swipe it and everything's swipey and nice, and like we're just a bunch of cats, and that's what they tell, and everybody wants to run out and buy a substandard phone instead of going and getting an Android phone, a Samsung. But that's storytelling, and that's why that company is in the position it is, because Jobs started telling that story with Macs all the way in the very, very beginning. And he didn't say, everybody come on down to Billy Bob's Mac store and buy this stuff. He never did do that, and he sold more computers than anybody. So if we can take lessons from that kind of thing, then I still haven't talked much about tactics, but tactics reveal themselves. The things you need to do to get that traffic in front of those audiences become apparent once you've got the story down. Once you know how to tell the story of yourself and your business and the people who work with you, or whatever that story ends up being, the traffic then it's like looking at a bunch of glyphs in Egypt, and then all of a sudden all of those weird little things just start making sense to you. Like, oh my God, I can read this stuff now. I can totally read it. Other people, like the Matrix thing. I feel like that green stuff dripping down the screen, they could read it. I read that now. I read that as traffic. I read that as, when I look around on the web, to some people it looks like that, and to me it's like, dude, it's right here. Here's the traffic over here. And it'll always be in a place where a client or a student wasn't looking at all. They were looking way over here, thinking this was the most important. I'm like, no, your source of traffic is right there. If your story is this, if your product is this, if your avatar is this, then your crowd is over here. And once they get that little triangulation, you can always zone in. You can do that for yourself all the time on where you need to be to make the biggest impact and attract the most attention.
That is fabulous. And you use so many elements of the story in that with the used car salesman, and I loved how you drew the picture of the avatar and where they play and what they're talking about, that they are in this location, because the way that David Bullock outlined story, those are truly the elements that play into the reasons why we see it or we don't. And that was just a perfect outline of that. And I really could resonate with it, because we grew up in a community learning traffic a different way. And so now when you're looking at it, we know the used car salesperson is not who I want to be, so the question was, how do I do it differently? And nobody could tell me. So then it was like, what do I do now? Nothing. or doing it poorly.
Mhm.
But I want our audience to know that there truly are better ways to go after the traffic that you want to attract to you. And knowing those pieces that you talked about is part of that strategy. Now, Cynthia, it looked like you wanted to chime in with something. You got
Yeah,
the
well, as we, you're speaking of the story that we heard Jack talking about. One of the things he did is the story is like um, you have that canvas and you're painting that masterpiece, and he talked about, the art that you're creating. And I just thought that was just amazing. And, the thought that came up for me, too, as he was talking about all this, is one of the things in Directions University and the Vortex and everything that we've really been speaking a lot about, and why we're here today, is a socialpreneurship. And there's a new story that's coming out for us all in business, and that center of that vortex. And so that's one of the things I really felt that was kind of coming with this, this masterpiece that we're creating, is when we go out to tell people, what do you do? And I would love Jack to speak to that, because it's so profound, and especially the way he shares his heart with us, the heart of our business. And that's that core center, the heart of our vortex. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
I would too, especially in the context of, again, most of us are thinking, I'm an artist and I'm right brain, so I can't do this, left brain sales stuff because that's what they think it is. Or I'm so left brain that I'm looking at sales as being an art, and I can't do that because I'm not the artist. However, what they don't see is something that you talked about, Cynthia, the heart of it, and the socialpreneurship piece that actually opens up the door to bring it into balance. So, Jack, do speak to that for us, please.
Well, gosh, that's a big one. You guys don't hold back at all. Ask one question on the whole interview, and that'll be the whole interview. That's a big one, but it's kind of, there's maybe an easy way to talk about it, and that might be that you just have to be natural. I think a lot of people think when they come into anything that they don't understand, that they feel like they're not the expert in. You're a chiropractor. You know how to fix people's backs. You know how to deal with pain. You know how to do all these things that you've spent, a long time becoming an expert in and certified and all that. Then you come to internet marketing and you're like, I don't know this stuff, so I've got to act a certain way. If I was going and had to infiltrate a hospital and look like a doctor, well, I know I got to put one of those coats on, and I got to try to find a stethoscope. We've seen the millions of movies where you duck into a closet and those things are readily available. Then you come out and you're Doogie Howser or whoever. And we know a TV or a story version of everything else in life. I know what my impressions of a lawyer are. So I would walk around and be really a cartoonish version, probably, but I think I was looking like a lawyer and acting like a lawyer and doing lawyerly-like things and be the law-talking guy. And so we come on the internet and we feel that pressure, and the pressure is in the lines of your face. It's in the lines of your code, your sales methodology, everything that you're telling people. It's all right there. It's like DNA. It's just totally infiltrated everything that you are uncomfortable doing the marketing for the thing that you love. So you've got this thing that you love that you want to tell everybody about, and you want to make money doing it, and you want to be financially free, you want your business to do well, and all of that stuff, and that's a lot of pressure. So, and then you feel like you've got 10 years less experience than you need to have in marketing. And in that, you start to go, well, let me just go duck into the closet, put a marketing coat on and a hat on, and everybody will think I'm, pulling this off, when everybody in the world is absolutely sure that you are not. And so don't do that is the message. Don't feel that pressure. You don't have to feel that pressure. What you need to do is just be natural and tell your story from your heart. Social media has made it so that maybe some of you came in after social media really got rolling, but let me assure you, the internet was just a very cold and impersonal place before social media. Comparatively, 2002 and 2015, radically different environment, just like the universe was after the Big Bang. We couldn't survive here until billions of years had passed, until the point where we had oxygen and water and a planet. And before that, it was an extremely hostile environment. And a lot of people nowadays would look at the old days of the internet and feel the same way. That was a hostile environment to have to market in, and we were almost forced to be a little bit more megaphony than megaphony. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Cynthia is writing that down, I'm sure. But we were forced to be that way. Now the internet demands that we are not, that we be engaging in some way that has nothing to do with our message, because we're actually out on a medium that was never intended to be marketed on. People made social media for everything but to be marketed on. That might come as a surprise to people who feel like their privacy is under constant attack at Facebook, but for marketing purposes. But they then had to figure out how to make money. They started just like every other social network starts. It's to be social. Hook people up, get them talking, all that stuff. And if there was any marketing involved or a business plan at all, it would be for advertising. Everybody knows Twitter's story. They still haven't figured out how to make money after all this time. They created a network so they could have 140 character conversation, 140 at a time, and so that's what it was for. You start thinking about marketing, and it really starts to be apparent. It's like really, really glaringly apparent when people are doing that. So our message is to just don't tell stories and come from the heart and talk about what you want to do in the world. So if your cause is wildlife and conservation, then lead with it and say, I was a tracker, I did all this stuff, and then talk about organizations that you support and the site that you're about to build, like wildernessprotection.org and things like that. Just random examples. I don't know what I'm talking about, but yeah, just talk. Just be like everybody else is being on social. The best teacher in social for traffic and getting attention is the stream. Just watch your stream. See how people get attention. They get attention with kittens. They get attention with neat videos, moving messages, funny stuff, engaging stuff, in-depth and very light material. The last thing that they get any attention for, or are even seeking attention for, because they're not in business, is business stuff, is go and buy this thing. When that occurs, it's somebody who has clicked on it, and this is really, really different. When it's coming from somebody who just came to your site, then goes to Facebook or Google Plus and shares it and says how great you are, that's a way, way different thing than you going on Facebook or Google Plus and saying how great I am or how great your product or service is. And so that works. That's socially acceptable. They're basically the same exact thing, but one is really, really bad and one is really, really okay. Everybody's okay with it. We love recommendations from our friends, but you can't pretend to be my friend if it's your product. So it has to come from a third party. And story, heart. Just had to get the last two keywords in there.
You mentioned the social cause connection. I know that we've done a lot of talking about the Tom Shoes example, about the fact that Nike now does a lot of their marketing around Girls Plus organization. Nike supporting the nonprofit that helps kids to be more active in life.
Yeah.
How can people actually bring that and marry that to their own marketing? A lot of people think that, I'm marketing this product or this service or this program. How do I connect it with something else? What are some of the strategies that are being used, like what Nike's doing?
Just starting your story out with one of the things we like to do at directionsuniversity.com is help people doing this, this, and this. And some event is coming up that either we're putting on or somebody else is putting on or whatever. So we want to draw attention to the thing that does good in the world as a result of our business being successful. Tom's does that as a part of their business model, so they can't even go out and get off track. They can't. They've so set themselves up as that being the core of what they do that they can't get away from it. Really brilliant way of setting up a business, and that's a moment of time to rethink how your business is set up, because you can always go to that. And so, just talk about what your business is doing in the world. It's a radically cool, new kind of thing that people are picking up on a lot more. It's not a random occurrence or like a grain of sand on the beach kind of business that's doing this. It's not just Tom's that's doing it or Nike.
Right.
Um, and it draws attention to your business. So Gina loves this one site called groupad.org or .com. I think it's .com, Group Ad. And what it does is it pairs up businesses with nonprofits. And what's brilliant about that from a strategic and tactical, here I am going right straight for that this time, but what it is you've got this captive audience. If you do something with the Nature Conservancy, and you know how big that organization is, it's gigantic. It has hundreds of thousands of members. And you help the Nature Conservancy to raise awareness or money or both through your business and maybe a product that you donate at a super reduced rate or something like that, so that you can integrate with that organization. You now have a built-in, remember Wembley Stadium? You now have a built-in audience for your, not that this is the reason that you do it because you like Nature Conservancy, and damn the rest of it. That has to absolutely be, and pay attention to that. You can't pretend that. That actually has to be it. So don't go shooting for nonprofits saying, I'm going to increase my business by working with them. You shoot for a nonprofit because you care, and that's what you want to do. The side and byproduct of that is your business will probably expand, because now Nature Conservancy is going to go out and tell the whole world, their whole world, hundreds of thousands of people on their email lists, on their website, on their paper newsletter lists and everything else, that you guys are working together and there's this really neat product. And you would smartly do whatever it was that you said you were going to do. Let's say you make tote bags or something, you're a printer, and that's what's featured on the ad. That's what's featured on the story, in the story that Nature Conservancy and you tell together to their audience. And they come to a web page, and there's going to be something. It's going to be the thing that you guys designed, and this is going to help us raise this much money to do this, or this much awareness to be able to do this, and all that stuff. But at the bottom somewhere, a lot of people who are going to be coming, a lot of people who are members of the Nature Conservancy own their own businesses. So if you sell to B2B, you know that they're going to be coming with their heart to this page. But when they get on that page, they're going to want to know a little bit more about you, and just fine print down at the bottom of the page, or just something off to the side. This is what we do. And it's all completely, the business of business is accomplished completely from the outside, completely from a flip-flopped way of looking at doing business, through leading with the heart. Everybody's attention was drawn to that page, that promotion, because they cared about the Nature Conservancy, or in this example, or any nonprofit that you're dealing with, and then they find out more about you. All of those people are attached to business. If you sell to the B2B market, all of those people are attached to business owners, and a lot of those people will be business owners. So great audience, and nobody ever thinks to look over there. Remember the triangulation thing? Nobody ever thinks to look over there, because they're like, all those people care about are trees and frogs and stuff. Why would I? Well, that's a really incredibly dumb way of looking at it, because people who care about trees and frogs are also in business. They're also everybody else in the world. They're every kind of background you can possibly think of. So but getting people to rally around that takes the focus off and the pressure off of you as the artsy person, or the technical person, of having to focus on that false marketing junk to get the message out to people, which isn't going to get them out. It's going to push them away. So there's a great example of how you would do that, and integrate everything that we've been talking about into your marketing, and people could turn around on a dime and have that ready to go next week. Starting now, next week, you'd have everything in place. There's no nonprofit in the world that's going to turn you down when you have a great idea that you want to do to help. Not in a million years. I worked there. Remember, I used to write grants. I used to be really, really mad about the amount of time that I had to spend writing grant proposals, because I wanted to be out in the world doing the tracking stuff. I wanted to be out there tearing up roads with my bare hands and tools, and I didn't want to be in an office typing all the time. Somebody would have come to me and said, hey, there's a way that, I'm a for-profit business, but you're a nonprofit, but I can set you up with something that you could sell to your people. It would help you, and you get this much money out of it. I would have been all ears. And I would have looked for more things like that, because the more I could find of that, the less grant writing I'd have to do, and the more I could be in the field, and the more our organization could do. So take it from somebody who has been there and knows what it's like to be in a nonprofit. your message will be received well all the time. Only though, if you hit the mark, it's you approach them for what you can do for them first. Then, or more importantly, here's how Gina would put it, approach them for what it's going to do for their members first. And that's going to appeal to the organization because you're thinking about their members, which is who they serve, and then what it's going to do for the organization itself, and then finally what it's going to do for you. If you set up any kind of marketing plan, any kind of integration or entrepreneurial integration into a nonprofit like that, if you come with that attitude, you're never going to fail. There's no way that you can fail because you're leading with the purity of your heart, their heart, the mission. There's no way to fail at that point. Your company gets bigger because people like companies that do things that are bigger than just profit. You know, so it's pretty simple, really.
I love it because a lot of people actually look at, if the most important thing in my business isn't the profit, how do I do this? And I think that you explained that so well, and I'm so grateful for that because that truly is the path that I'm on and the focus that I am actually bringing to the market, to not just convey this message that you just stated, but to actually help people to do that in their businesses. And I just thank you for that. Now, I know you've written a book, another book, and it is all about the traffic vortex. And I want to invite you to tell our audience about it because I think I have a way for them to get a copy of it.
I think you might have a way to give them a copy of it too. Yeah, so it's the Amazing Traffic Vortex. So like I said earlier, when I said that Gina's presentation was all about the business, the business end of making a vortex. That same vortex model works, and they are all the same thing, but place the focus on the traffic, getting the attention, the outer three rings of the vortex. If you'll go back and remember what Gina was talking about there, those outer three are what I'm in charge of for Directions University. She's in charge of the inner two rings. If there were a head of the rings, those would be the rings. And mine is basically so we get enough attention in the market so people know that they can come and choose us over somebody else, or you know, get into our funnel. And so the Amazing Traffic Vortex is really placing more of its focus on that part of the vortex model of doing business. And just very short, very quick read, easy to get you a good primer, and it can change some things in your marketing that you're doing right now. It can change your focus on things that you're kind of not sure about right now. Why am I not getting this traffic from this place when somebody said that I get 100,000 people a month from this place and I'm not getting 100? What's going on? And so it can clarify a lot of things for you, and it's shortness. It's not very long, 25 pages, I think. Last count. I change it every once in a while, so to update for kind of new ideas that we have. So yeah, Amazing Traffic Vortex. It's pretty cool, and it's kind of eye-opening, I think, for a lot of people, at least by the feedback that we're getting so far on it.
Well, you can get this book complimentary from Jack by going to skyhawkenterprises.biz/ATV for the Amazing Traffic Vortex. That's skyhawkenterprises.biz/ATV. And you'll be able to download your copy of the Amazing Traffic Vortex right there. It explains a little bit about the vortex model of doing business and where, as Jack mentioned, the traffic piece fits in. Now, Jack, you know, people are asking, or I'm sure wanting to know, how they can connect with you, how they have the ability to work a little more closely with you. And I know that you are also offering an opportunity for them to do just that as part of the Motivation to Profits program. So tell us a little bit about Motivation to Profits.
Well, that is my opus. That's like I'm a part of a bigger thing. And, you know, I've always been a part of just what I do, and I've had partners before, but it's always been the Jack Humphrey hour for the most part until I hooked up with Gina at Directions University and started working with her on things that are a lot of what we talked about today, but also just business strategy and things. I've learned so much, and I was at a point where, of course, I could never have any more to learn. I've learned everything about this business and getting, but no, Gina has opened my eyes in the last 18 months to a lot of things. And one of the big things that we decided right in the beginning, that she had a program called Motivation to Profit. Actually, it wasn't Motivation to Profit. We came up with that name too. It was blogging systems, but now it's Motivation to Profit. And she realized that my voice wasn't in any of it, and that we were falling a little bit behind with some of the things that she talked about in the previous program, because technology changes and really needed to do an overhaul, which we did in 2014. In 2014, we did 45 new lessons. And the nice thing is, and what probably Gina talked about in her presentation the last time, was we didn't have to do all 45, but we had to coordinate all those different lessons, all those different modules, which became the course for Motivation to Profit. And it was rough. It was really rough, because that's a lot of material. And it's also harder when you care about people's ability to absorb the information. So when you're thinking about how best to present things so that it's best absorbed by the people who are taking the course, and how the curriculum is designed, and the order in which it flows, and which guest expert should be on this topic, and all of that. So a lot of care has been taken. And while we're not an accredited university, there's not a university on the planet that has done a better job than Directions University at putting together this level of business and life. We call it a lifestyle business training, hands down. I mean, there's just nothing that even comes close. A lot of universities have, over the years, started picking up on internet marketing and those kinds of things, but only on a very cursory level. So the things we teach aren't taught in school, and people really appreciate that. So if you wanted a soup to nuts, complete from beginning to end understanding of how lifestyle business is created on the internet, that's Motivation to Profit.
That really is Motivation to Profit, and I have to say that it has been a program that in my entering has up-leveled my business, up-leveled my opportunities for JV partnerships, and really supported me through bringing this book idea through the stages of growth that it needed to go through to do what we're doing today. Cynthia, I know that you two are a part of the Motivation to Profits program. Tell a little bit about what that experience has been for you.
Oh, it has just helped me also recognize myself as far as my work and my business and what I'm here to serve. It has brought a whole new level of consciousness for myself, and that my heart is in helping others with their business and with their lives. So, as Jack talked about, Directions University is a lifestyle. It teaches a lifestyle and business. It's all one. We can't go into business not bringing our hearts into it and making it a lifestyle, because we spend most of our time in business, and if we can't just leave our hearts at home and then come into business and then disconnect there and come back. But Directions University has definitely taken myself and allowed me to teach, because I was a founder of the Center for Loving Consciousness, and many people said, what does that have to do with business? And all of a sudden we found how much loving consciousness has to do with life itself, and us helping one another and serving one another, and that's where the heart has completely come in. And I wouldn't have had that clarity if it wasn't for me being a part of Directions University and their programs at the university, the Motivation to Profit, the bachelor's program that we have, and wow, it's amazing. And the people that they brought in to Directions University, the faculty members, the deans, you guys can't get, I mean, as Jack said, there's no university out there, lifestyle university, that teaches you how to better live your life and to serve in a big way and contribute and be a contribution to this world. So that's what it's done for me.
Thank you for that. One of the things that I am very clear about is that what you do learn, even from a lot of the best of the coaches and mentors out in the world today, is about business building, but it's not about how to put your heart into your business unless they're looking at it from the standpoint of your heart being blood, sweat, and tears. Within Directions University, your heart is the degree within which you choose to serve, who you choose to serve, how you choose. That bringing in that heart element actually takes it to another level energetically. And Jack mentioned the fact that, you know, this is emotion and energy being brought into how it is that you do business, how it is that you find your client base, how it is that you actually attract your ideal client to you. And the heart as an organ has so much power. There are a lot of people who understand the auric fields, that understand the energetic level, the frequency within which we live and do things. And a lot of people think, well, I'm reserving my love for family and for my other relationships. But when you realize the fact that what you love in your business can be expressed to help attract your ideal clients to you, and these are paying clients, then that is truly the space that you want to stay in 24/7, 365, because it is the place that helps you with your business build the lifestyle that you want. And if you have it already, then you're ready to go to the next level, because there's always another level that you can grow and be productive in and do more good in the world. You know, you hear me say a lot of times, you know, what we do in the P3 Academy of Social Entrepreneurship, that is a Skyhawk Enterprises business company, is to help entrepreneurs to do bigger business, to do it differently, so that they can bring in more revenue and do more in their lives and do more good in the world. That is actually what the Permission Movement experience is all about. And I want to tell you really quickly how you can get information on the Motivation to Profits program. You can go to skyhawkenterprises.biz/MTP. For Motivation to Profits. That's skyhawkenterprises.biz/MTP. And you will find all of the information on Motivation to Profits. And here's the kicker now, if you purchase one of the digital packages from the Permission Movement experience, you will get 90 days free access to the Motivation to Profits program. What else is there? 3 months free access to Motivation to Profits as a gift from Gina and Jack. And so go to skyhawkenterprises.biz/MTP, and you can purchase the program there. But purchase one of the digital packages, get your 90 days complimentary access, and then also, if it's something that you see resonates with you and you are drawn like we've been drawn, then you've got your opportunity there to be a part of Motivation to Profits for life. We want you to be a part of the Directions University family. Help us to expand what it is that we're doing and the messages and the stories that we are sharing for the benefit of business owners who want to grow and do more good in the world. So with that said, Cynthia, have I covered everything?
I've been trying to keep up with you to make sure I get everybody those links and to be able to connect with us at Directions University and to help support this permission movement experience. And all of these things that we're talking about here is an experience of a lifetime. It will, you want to make a difference in the world, this is where you come to learn more about how you can make that happen. And Lynn and I, what we're doing here today is because of the education that we received from these programs that Lynn is offering you. And the one thing I think you should also let them know, that if they come into these programs, this is also benefiting the permission movement experience. This is what Gina and Jack have done for us, is to provide us with this opportunity for all of you. And so come into our family, come into our community. This is what it's all about, making a difference in the world. So thank you.
Thank you. It's so important for us to lend our expertise to those who can benefit. One of the things that we wanted to do was share our friends and the experts out there that we know can help you. And we brought Jack Humphrey here today, the traffic master. Jack, thank you so much for being here. If there was one thing that you wanted to make sure that our audience took away with them today, what would that be?
Just be real. Just really focus on. It's kind of weird because it's hard to be real when you're so focused on being real, but you know what I mean. Just loosen up and be real in all of your thoughts about how you grow your business, to how you talk to people, the stories that you tell. People are in a desperate situation to the thing that they really want when they're on social media and they're just flipping through their phone, looking at all the bad news. They're looking at all the stuff that they don't want to see. They're looking for stories. They're looking for something to believe in. They're looking for connection. And so, and when you've made a connection with somebody and you've got business attached to that somewhere down the road, or, the next 3 steps, you've got a successful business, period. And examples abound. I don't have to tell you my own examples. Just think about the ones that we've talked about on the show today. Just be real.
Thank you, Jack. As we continue to be real in our mission and our intentions for providing all of this in the permission movement experience to you, I just want to say thanks for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure for Cynthia and I to host Jack Humphrey and to really pour this information into you, the entrepreneur who actually wants to do more good in the world. And if you hadn't thought about it before, maybe this is the seed planted that will help you to see more into the vision of your business and set the intention to do just that, more good in the world. Thanks for joining us today. Again, my name is V. Lynn Hawkins. I'm your co-host today on behalf of my other co-host, Cynthia Gardner O'Neill, who is the creator of Harmonics and can be found at harmonics.org. Please come back and join us again tomorrow when we have the amazing Natalie Ledwell, co-creator, co-founder of Mind Movies and the Inspiration Show. And she's got some great information for us tomorrow. We'll be talking to her about the topic, Your Story is Not Your Own, Share It. It's kind of like, you were born for a purpose. Define it, find it, define it, and stand in it. Make that your new story going forward. So thanks again. We'll see you tomorrow. Remember, every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday right here at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, you can find the Permission Movement Experience. We'll have a new show for you, and it's going to be powerful. So see you tomorrow. Thanks again, everyone.
Bye-bye.